Well, hello there. I'm so glad you found my channel. My name is Crystal, and welcome to Adventures in Furniture Flipping with the Crafty Creech. In this video, I'm going to show you how I turned this old, outdated, vintage buffet into a beautiful, romantic piece of art. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. I snatched up this buffet for $6 at an auction. The first thing I need to do is I need to scuff sand the bottom, and I'm going to sand the top to bare wood. There was a pretty deep gouge on the top, so I took a piece of sandpaper and I folded it in half. Then I very carefully sanded the gouge to get out the old finish and to make it flatter on the surface so that it felt smooth. After sanding the gouge, it was hardly noticeable that it had ever even been there. I sanded the drawers mostly by hand because they had like a little ledge. I had difficulty getting at with my sander, and I always wear a protective face mask, a respirator, to protect my lungs from any dust particles that might be escaping from sanding. I took a Western Oak stain by Varathane, and I used a rag from a cut-up t-shirt and applied my stain. I always make sure I go with the grain and not against it. Once my stain is dried, I can apply my top coat. On this project, I decided to use a clear brushing lacquer, which I find is quite durable. I use a lacquer thinner to thin down my lacquer so that way it is easier to brush on and leaves less brush strokes. So I just kind of eyeball it, and I put a little bit of lacquer thinner into my lacquer and mix it really well. And then I go ahead and I brush everything on. Lacquer dries very quickly in between coats. Usually in about 30 to 45 minutes, you are ready for a second coat of lacquer. And if you'd like to, you can sand before you apply another coat. I knew I was painting this piece white, so I decided to prime everything, not only just to help with adhesion purposes, but to also prevent tannins from bleeding through my white paint. Tannins are just the natural wood tone that tend to seep through white or lighter colored paints. So it's important to take a step to prime these. But what I noticed immediately when I put my first coat of primer on is that I was getting bleed through. So I expected that I was going to struggle with bleed through regardless of how many coats of primer I put on this piece. What my solution is, and I've been doing this for a lot of years, is I would take a coat of lacquer and apply it to all the pieces that I plan on painting. This basically just seals everything and blocks the tannins from reappearing. I know many people use shellac, but I have never tried that. I have used lacquer successfully for quite a few years now. I went ahead and started priming my piece after my lacquer was dry. My first coat went on excellent. I had no more bleed through. I was very happy with that. I ended up doing 3 coats of primer. That way I do not need to use a lot of white paint. White is notorious for needing many coats. So I try and do my best and prime really well so I don't need as many coats of paint. I knew I was going to be reusing my hardware, so I let it soak in some soapy water for a bit. And then I used a piece of sandpaper and I just wet sanded everything to just scuff it up and clean it. This will create a rough surface and a clean surface. That way, any paint I put on it will adhere properly and I do not need to worry about anything getting nicked or scuffed off easily. I am using Rust-Oleum brand linen white chalk paint and it went on really well. It covered really good because I primed really well. I ended up doing about 2, maybe 3 coats of paint on my piece. I only used about a quarter of the can, maybe half of the can right in between. So the coverage was really good. I was happy with it. As you can see, there are no areas with bleed through on the drawers, so that is great. I did notice a couple areas on the door where I had some bleed through where I must have missed putting on some lacquer. So I just went back and I took some lacquer and I brushed it on those areas to seal that in before I painted over everything. And that did the trick. It worked really well. So I have my first coat of my white chalk paint on. And I'm not even sure I'm going to need to put a second coat on. I did a really good job with the primer and I took that lacquer and I sealed in the tannins that were bleeding through the primer. I might just put another quick coat on it just because. I took a 3M sanding sponge and a mister bottle of water and I sprayed down my surface and then I gently sanded everything. I was inside the house, so I didn't really want to create a lot of dust That is why I use the mister bottle with the water to kind of wet sand it to help prevent any dust. A great product to use is feed and wax for the inside of the drawers to just revive them and rejuvenate them. It smells wonderful. It smells like oranges. It's really easy to use and it does a great job. It's one of my favorite products to use inside of drawers to clean them up and make them look nice. Here's a quick shot of the buffet all ready to go for transfers. Today I am going to be putting on the transfers. Add some color to this stark white cabinet. These are really big ones, so I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to figure out where I want them. I'm thinking one right here kind of off center, and I'm going to put a couple on the top, a couple on the sides, but I did take a 3M sanding sponge and I sanded everything down to get my surface even. I prefer using these over like paper sandpaper. I feel like they're less abrasive. And I'm also able to get in like the corners and little spaces easier with the sponge because it's like flexible. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna spend some time and I'm gonna do that. I also painted all of my hardware. So just white, just to match. I might de-stress these a little bit, not sure yet. Once I get my transfers on, I'll decide. I laid the buffet down on its back and I instantly regretted that. I thought it would be easier to apply this transfer, but it was actually harder. The drawer kept moving. I did the second part of the transfer with the buffet sitting on its feet, and it was much easier. I didn't have as much difficulty putting the transfer on. It was really quite a challenge to apply this transfer on all the curved areas of the drawers. On almost every spot where the drawer separated from the dresser and the door separated from the dresser, I had a really hard time. There was a lot of cracks, there was a lot of damages in the transfer itself. It was hard to put on those areas. I'm not really sure how to make that easier, as this is the first time I have tried putting a transfer on curved areas and areas where drawers need to be opened and doors need to be open. Here is my transfer. I have a whole lot of cracked transfer here. I don't know if anyone has had issues with putting transfers on, especially doing it on a flat surface is pretty easy, but as you can see, I have some issues where my drawers are and where I had to go around curves and things like that. If you have any tips or advice, I'd love to know about it. This is the fourth transfer I have put on, and the first time I have ever done it on a curved surface. So yeah, let me know. I am going to now attempt to disguise all of this with some acrylic paints, and I will show you how I do that. Okay, so I have some random acrylic and craft paints mixed up here on a paper plate. Let's see what we can do here. Alright, here goes. Looks pretty good. I still have to do the green leaves, like here and here and there and there, and a little bit of pink here, but I mean, you can hardly tell. One thing I have done and learned over so many years of doing this is how to fix my mistakes. Yeah. It's a big part of the whole process. No more cracks. Onto the green leaves. I will go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll show you guys. It is all done. I think it turns out great. Let me know what you guys think and what you think about my repair job. I'd love to hear everything you thought about my video down in the comments. I really hope you guys liked the video. Please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And have a great day.